So a few more accounts here, as well as Melinda, John Ramsey's sister. So this is the other line of the family, of course. The John Ramsey's current family was, of course, Patsy Ramsey and their two children, Jonbenet Ramsey and Burke Ramsey. From his other marriage, John Ramsey had John Andrew and Melinda Ramsey. Okay, so apparently Melinda, John Andrew, and Stuart Long, Melinda's boyfriend, turned up at the scene and then they were taken away in separate cars. This was approximately 1:30 p.m. The official story is that she flew in with John Andrew. They left early from Atlanta to meet John and Patsy in Minneapolis that morning, only they were rerouted when they landed to Denver. Then they got the taxi to Boulder. So supposedly, the three of them are traveling together, Melinda, her fiance Stuart Long, and John Andrew. Now, there's a lot of curiosities here. So from Paula Woodward's book, this is a quote here. When we got to the house in Boulder, I remember seeing police setting up yellow tape around the yard. Dad and Patsy were outside with friends, and Dad was crying. Patsy looked awful. Dad said Jonbenet is with Beth. That's my sister who was killed in a car crash. My mind played tricks on me. I was already in shock. My first reaction was that Jonbenet had not died. It was that Beth was taking care of Jonbenet while she was still kidnapped. We all almost immediately got into cars and went to a family's friend's home. When we got there, Patsy couldn't even sit up, so I went to comfort her. Melinda told Patsy, we're going to get her back. It's going to be okay. And Patsy told Melinda, no, Melinda, you don't understand. Your dad found her in the basement. She's dead. I remember thinking this would kill them. After all, my sister Beth was killed in a car wreck. It was just so awful. I didn't think they could take another loss like this. I thought they'd be dead in a year from sheer grief. Patsy already seemed dead inside. Her whole body was pale and gray. She just wasn't there. Dad was sobbing continuously. His way of dealing was to pace and cry. So these are Melinda's statements. What do we make of that? And apparently Stuart Long said that John Ramsey found Jonbenet at 11 a.m. And again, he could just be misreporting. A lot of inconsistencies here. And the 1 hour time difference from Minneapolis. Here's an interesting post on the miscarriage of justice.co forums. The post starts with the Patsy Ramsey interview, God knows who you are and we will find you, pointing her finger at the killer. The comment here, it is hard to imagine that the person who committed that crime of murder would make such a claim to the world. Has it ever happened before? I know people to swear an oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and yet lie. The gravestone for Jonbenet is odd in that the date of her death is December 25th, 1996. In my theory, her death was on the day after, on the 26th, in the early morning thereof. The inscription of the tomb, love, purity, and joy, a gift to her family and the world, home in the peace of God. Others have noted John Ramsey can write a book and not mention John Andrew at all. I noted he had an hour interview without a mention of John Andrew. A book seems even longer. If I had to nominate anyone, I'd keep an eye on Melinda and John Andrew and how their alibis were backed by their mom, Lucinda. Brad and Chris could be part of it too. Law enforcement tried to get to the truth back then. It would be virtually impossible now unless the evidence they have is released for public scrutiny. The next bit is the basis of my theory. In my opinion, it points to something happening between the Ramsey siblings. There was a huge fortune, so there was plenty of motive to reduce the number of beneficiaries to the estate. I'd say any talk of $1 billion business, etc., is enough to get some people scheming. Money is a common theme in murders. Top this off with the possible incestuous relationships between the kids, and Jonbenet beginning to speak about it. there could be the additional motive to shut her up. But the Ramsey family all had lawyers and they became impossible to crack. But it is evident that the two older siblings were on the outer and were being given a cold Christmas, so I wouldn't be surprised they planned something to interfere with Patsy's birthday treat, the big red boat cruise. The timing of finding Jonbenet at the moment that John Andrew and Melinda turn up seems significant to me. The way everything was made to point to Patsy is also very significant in my opinion. Interesting. Also, apparently Chief Kohler stated that according to John Ramsey's account, one of the intruders must have remained hiding in the home long after the police arrived on the scene to investigate the kidnapping. This is what my theory demands as well. Can anyone accept what Chief Kohler is saying and what John Ramsey's account demands? It is the last thing anyone would expect that the morning that the kidnapper would still be on the property. Once the friends are invited over for support, any alarms would have been turned off, so the exit is possible up through the kitchen and out the butler's door. That door was later found open. As I understand the floor plans, there were two stairways in the basement, one to the kitchen, the other to the butler's kitchen. You know what else is curious, too? Is it possible that John Andrew was spotted by Joe Barnhill and the other neighbor in the morning? So he was spotted the night before, then he was spotted running away the morning of? Or was it just a guy who looked like John Andrew? I mean, there's no shortage of suspects of guys in the neighborhood. Another curiosity regarding Melinda Ramsey is that the palm print on the door was apparently attributed to Melinda, but it was explained away as that was from one of her previous visits to the house. A comment here, as far as I know, you can't tell when a finger or palm print is made, you can only identify it. Huh, interesting.